Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this webinar on our course in the Masters of Business Laws. My name is Apurva Gupta. I am the Assistant Coordinator at the Department of Distance Education at NLSIU. And I extend a very warm welcome to all the participants who've made the time to join the webinar. I'm joined by my colleagues, Professor Dr. Sudhir Krishnaswamy, who's the Honorable Vice Chancellor at NLSIU. He's also the Director of the department as well as the Program Coordinator for this program. I'm also joined by Ms. Sushila Suresh, who's the Facilitator at DAD. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce NLSIU to you. NLSIU was the first law university that was established in India in 1986. It was set up with the mission to pioneer legal education. And since then, we have been anchoring the transformation of legal systems in India through our cutting edge research and policy interventions. For over 30 years, we have been the leaders in the field of legal education and have been ranked #1 in all the leading rankings in the country. Recently, we have also been ranked #1 for the past 3 years in the National Institutional Ranking Framework by the Government of India. Let me also tell you that we are very proud to have an exceptionally high achieving group of alumni who have furthered the mission of NLSIU to be socially responsible as well as to contribute to research and development of the law. Our alumni have been leaders not just in the field of law, but in various other fields where they've taken their expertise and improved those fields. Let me also introduce to you our Department of Distance Education. DAD was designed to be socially inclusive. And we extended our expertise in legal education to those who may not be able to join us on campus. Hence, a hybrid distance learning approach was forwarded by the department, which enabled a self-paced learning framework. All graduates from any disciplines are eligible to apply. We welcome people from all ages and all backgrounds to join us in this journey of learning the law and to critically engage with it. This program has been particularly designed to empower candidates to expand their knowledge and to critically engage with the different legal systems and frameworks and to understand the contemporary trends in the fields. The curricula is cutting edge, it is contemporary, and it is taught by the leading experts and professionals in the country. If you are interested in moving ahead in your career, if you're interested in exploring interdisciplinarity in law and other fields, especially that of business, you can definitely consider these programs. And this will also enable you to become a leader in your field. You will also have access to an outstanding group of alumni to a university that has sustained its brand for over 30 years and will support you in your future career path. I will now invite Professor Krishnaswamy to introduce the Master of Business Laws course to you. And after a while, we will also be taking questions and answers. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning and look forward to hearing from many of you in the questions as we follow up. Thank you, Apurva and Sushila, for setting this up and for the broad introduction. Some of you may know, but I joined recently at the National Law School and have recently taken charge of this wide array of programs that we offer in distance learning. And you may have noticed in the very short time that we have been at it, that we are transforming the way these programs are organized and delivered across the board. So what are we doing now? So the MBL program began much earlier in 95, 96. And it's the early program that emerged when India was reforming its economy. All of you are familiar with the 91 reforms, and the government of India then asked NLSIU to develop a program that can train a wide range of both professionals as well as practitioners across the fields in these emerging areas of business law. And that's the genesis of the program. From 94-95, the program has just grown in strength and has remained the core master's degree that the university offers in the distance mode. Now, the program is a rigorous program. By that I mean it's the only program that we offer on distance mode that is spread across 2 years. So it's a 2-year program, 10 courses besides an introduction. And if you look at the 10 courses, the spread of the 10 courses, it covers all of the basic areas of private law: contract, corporations, commercial law, as well as some key regulatory areas like banking, insurance, and taxation, and so on. So when you look at this course structure, you get a sense that over the period of 2 years, you get the opportunity to get a very broad base across these areas of law. As all of you know, and many of you have so much work experience that you're familiar with the idea that these areas actually intersect in complicated ways. For example, corporate law and investment law are intimately connected. The form and structure of the firm is closely connected to the nature of investment that one can raise and the conditions of both entry and exit of capital in firms. And so you need that amount of time to just get a grip on how these areas have come to be set up, their core principles, and how they intersect. So the approach and the pedagogy in these programs has developed over many years. And what I can highlight for you as we embark on the cohort of 2020-21 is that we are changing both pedagogical form and modes of delivery in important ways. First, the COVID pandemic has forced all of us in the field of education to take seriously both video delivery as well as asynchronous learning. Now, we are doing this with on-campus programs at this point because we don't have much of a choice, but we should have done this with distance education a long time ago. But we're very happy to say that in the last year, we have completely transitioned our distance learning program to a hybrid learning mode where video instruction, simultaneous video instruction, as well as asynchronous access to these videos is an integral part of how we deliver the program. So this is a big leap from what we were doing even 2 years ago. And for all of you who are considering this program, this would be a significant added attraction. Further, we are restructuring all of our programs, paying close attention to both the credit structure as well as the way in which we teach these programs. So you will notice this year that you will have a large, many more classes, much more classroom time. And our experience and our feedback and learning has been that we talk too little, but we set a high standard in the program. And so we're going to try and remedy that by having more faculty engagement with students, aided no doubt by online technology like what we are using today. So these are things that you will see happening. A more general pedagogy that we follow is that we teach in a problem-oriented manner. So this is not, we're not teaching dry codes, by which I mean, it's not enough for someone to know just what are the sections of the various contract law statutes. What's important for all of you to know is how those sections might apply to concrete problems in everyday life and beyond. It is that kind of application-oriented learning that these programs focus on. So we are trying to build this year more practical learning opportunities. So watch out for that. We haven't done enough of the base building for me to make a public statement about it, but these are opportunities we're trying to build into the program. So much for the program. So let me move on and say a little bit about how the course is rolled out and what the rough calendar is. You know that there would be a general introduction to law, which all of you will go through with all the PG diploma courses. And then you do 5 courses in the first year. You need to complete a certain number of these courses in order to move into the second year. And then you do 5 more courses in the second year. When I say first year and second year, you know that these programs are self-paced. So this is how the offering will be structured, but you may choose how you pace yourself, because you have as many as 5 years to complete this program. So you can choose what courses you'd like to enroll and complete at what stage. And so we give you that opportunity to pace yourself over a period of time. We understand that many of you are working in various institutions, and we understand that this is in addition to your already existing workloads. Now, what can you, and I'll go to the next slide now, what can you expect? How would you decide whether this course is for you? The one thing I want to say, and I want to say this carefully so that I don't dissuade you unnecessarily, but I must say that please notice that unlike our other postgraduate programs, which are diploma programs, this is a degree program. A degree program, by academic definition, is more stringent and more demanding than a diploma program. So let me make very clear that the program is a demanding program overall, but you should enter a course like this very clear that this is what you indeed want to do. Who is it useful for? It would be useful for someone who had a legal education, who is looking to upgrade and integrate what they have learned across their 3 or 5 year law program. It would also be useful to someone who has no legal education. So the way this program is structured is that it begins with everybody with the baseline assumption that you don't have a legal education. So we are introducing you to these core areas of law, and then very quickly to move it along and give you an advanced sense of how you might apply the law. Let's make it very clear that this program is not a substitution for a law degree. It neither entitles you, neither gives you a right to practice, nor is it a qualification to become a law teacher. So someone just asked, how is it different from an LLM? An LLM entitles you to become a law teacher. The MBL course does not entitle you to become a law teacher. So in that sense, it doesn't have that regulatory effect, but nevertheless, it's a course that has very high application quality. It's the kind of course that would allow you to become a careful decision maker, have an understanding of legal risks in decision making, and allow you to become a self-learner in this field. Give you the basic foundation, and then all of you would have the opportunity to learn from there. What we have is that most alumni from this program either go on to enhance their law practice, or they go on to take on bigger roles in the management situations they find themselves. Some of them are in the software industry, others are in the pharma industry and elsewhere. All of these, what the feedback that we have got is that the successful completion of this program allows you to really grow in your professional field. So that's as much as I think I need to say at this stage. And I'll hand this back to Apurva, who will take us through the last part of this.
Thank you so much, sir, for that detailed sharing of the course structure and the course aims. We will now move on to the question and answer session. May I request everybody who has a question to ask to raise their hand on Zoom, and we will unmute everybody one by one.
Yeah. Good evening, good afternoon. I'm calling from Kuwait. I'm working as a manager here. So in oil and gas field, I would like to do this MBL through online, this distance education. So what is the minimum requirement to attend the classes every year?
Suresh, it is up to you whichever classes you may want to attend. Apart from the classes, we will also be providing you with supplementary material. The
Okay, fine.
examination is not based on any minimum attendance criteria. Like Sir had shared, this is a flexible program and you will be able to pace it as per your needs. I hope that
It's okay.
answers your question.
Yeah, actually, the most probably I cannot come for attend those classes as followed for other programs. But is there any program is to conduct online classes?
So for this
Yes.
program as well, we will be sharing online class calendar and you will have access to videos of lectures, recorded videos of lectures as well.
Okay, okay. So is there any possibility to get in touch with the working professionals like those who are in this MBL related activities to get more knowledge, ideas while doing this learning process?
I can just add that we are building in a practical connect with various professionals into the program. You will see that in your course calendar. So you will need to be available for that. And provided you are available for that, yes, that those facilities will be built into the program.
So in general, I can come to only to attend the examinations. So is it okay? So no there is no other.
That is correct.
Okay, let's
Okay.
go on to the next question, please.
Yeah,
Ananya. Thank you, Suresh. Let's unmute Ananya.
Hi, ma'am. Thank you for organizing this session. Actually, I have already applied for the course and I have filled in all the details. I have submitted the documents, and I just wanted to understand the next course of action and how the admission procedure will be conducted. Will there be any examination, or when we will actually get to know whether we have been selected or not?
Yeah, once you apply for the course, you need to take a printout of the application and send it with documents to the department. On receipt, we will send you a mail confirmation with all the details with your student ID number, etc.
So ma'am, thank you so much. But under this COVID-19 situation, since I'm based in Mumbai, I am not in a position to courier
In such case, you can mail the soft copies to the DED@nls.ac.in.
Yes, ma'am. I did that already. I have provided the documents over an email.
Then you will get a reply shortly.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You can look at an academic year as beginning concretely from about the first week of August. There seem to be several questions relating to academic year. Ordinarily, we work from July to June. Given the disruptions and the slight delays in the conduct of the examinations this year, because of the pandemic related lockdowns, you can expect to start from August. I think there's several questions about academic year. I hope I've responded to them. Back to you, Apurva.
Yes, next question from Anirudh.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Am I audible?
Yes. Please.
Yes, sir. So I have two questions. One is, does this course entitle us to be alumni of NLSIU? That's first. And second, similarly, even I have completed my application. I'm based in Mumbai and I'm facing issues to get it notary attested because of the prevailing situation. So can I just submit unattested copies now and at a subsequent date get it verified? And if
let me respond, Anirudh. Anirudh, the NLS Alumni Association has had a sort of start-stop existence so far, and there's been a recent push to re-establish it in a vibrant way. I think you will, so what I can say unambiguously is that yes, all graduates of all programs will be members of the Alumni Association. And by the time you finish this program, I'm confident that the Alumni Association will be in a good place and you will benefit from that association. That's one. On the question of, I think Mr. Lingaraj has already replied to an earlier query that self-attestation will do at this stage. And in this context, we might ask for some further materials as we go along, but for the moment that will do.
Thank you so much for the clarity.
Suman, and I'll just take the opportunity to answer Suman. Suman asked us how many hours you need to put in for a week. Let me be clear, Suman, that since it's a self-paced program, we don't build a minimum number of hours in that sense. What we can tell you is that for every 4-credit course, which is the course that you are, every one of the 10 courses, you will have 36 hours. Sorry, I think you will have 16 hours of instruction. We will give you those. We will give you those details in further communication. So you will have a certain number of class hours. Now, self-learning is moderated through our learning platform on Moodle, and we will indicate to you roughly how long it will take you to finish some material. But exactly how much you put into 1 week or you put into another week, we leave entirely up to you. There was one other question about jobs, and maybe I'll respond to that. I'm trying to scroll through and see who asked that question. It was Real Me, maybe, I don't know. So since I don't have your name, we don't run a placement program associated with the MBL program. So we don't offer placement services. What we will offer you is the opportunity to connect widely, and the reputation of the program has done a lot of good to many previous alumni and helped them both grow in their current field as well as change their jobs. So no placement services, but we are reasonably confident about the effect that a course like this has on your professional growth.
Yeah, I'm actually a company secretary by profession. So I just wanted to know how this MBL thing would help me, because there's a lot of debate that LLB is much better than MBL, and this would be an added advantage for my my resume. So I just wanted to know whether MBL is better or LLB is better. And number 2 question is, while filling up the application, so I just found out that I've missed one of the documents. So will that result in cancellation of my application? I haven't applied it. I mean, I haven't submitted the document, but I found that one of my certificates are missing, and I can't go back to my college right now to get that certificate again. So just wanted to know if how to go ahead with it. Thank you.
So Sunanda, may I respond to your first question? So the company secretary professional qualification is a qualification that focuses on training professionals to be fully conversant with the process of corporate governance. And this goes down to the details of the forms and the modes of submission and when what is due, right? So company secretaries, of course, do more than that, but I'm just giving you a broad description to make my point of contrast. The MBL program is a program not focused on what forms need to be submitted when, but it's a program that focuses on first principles. So we would be happy if you finished a course on contracts and understood what are the founding principles in the field of contracts, what are the key statutes, how, if you are confronted with a problem in contract law, could you apply those rules to a concrete case situation. So this is what the MBL program is trying to do, very different from a company secretary qualification. Is it different from an LLB? Clearly an LLB program, as the Bar Council mandates, has to be a full-time program. There is no part-time or distance LLB, though many people try to skirt around that regulatory requirement. But an LLB is a 3-year program at the very least, and it entitles you to practice law. So let's be clear that the MBL is a part-time 2-year program, 2 to 5 years, but does not entitle you to practice law.
Right, sir.
Sunanda, you can just scan the documents and send it to email. We'll verify and we'll let you know what can be done.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Aman, can the program be completed before 2 years? The answer is no. So 2 years is the minimum and we can build upwards from there. Neha, you asked how many exams are conducted in a year. Previously, exams were conducted in the middle of the year in the month of June and in the end of the year in December. And these exams were conducted at physical centers. As you know, in the current situation, we need to innovate on that, and we already are. So for the first time this year, we will conduct exams in July in using remote proctoring exam systems. So to answer your question, how many would be conducted in a year? So far, 2. But as we develop confidence and ability around remote testing, you can expect some more innovation as we go along.
Captain Samir, please go ahead with your question.
Yeah, thank you. Apurva, excellent session. Thank you so much for this. I just had a query, you already partially answered it, that the material that you will provide us, supplementary for the academics and for the learning, is that going to be sufficient from a term of learning and giving the examination?
Yes, the material has been specifically designed to speak to your need of studying by yourself. Also receive interactive material in the form of recorded video lectures and ongoing supplementary material that can also aid your learning. So we feel from our end that will be sufficient. But like you know, there
Wonderful.
is learning.
May I just add that you are, Samir, Captain Samir, you're looking at the course at a time where we are going through something of an internal transition. The previous method was primarily to rely on printed paper. So those materials you will always have access to. So those, in some sense, you can treat as your baseline materials. On top of that, we will build a learning platform, and the learning platform will build greater engagement, more reference to materials, and also some ability to self-test and self-learn. We will also build in this year some office consultation hours for faculty. So you'll have the opportunity to reach and interact with your faculty outside of the classroom sessions as well. So in all these ways, I think the spectrum of material that you will be exposed to will be quite wide.
Thank you so much, Professor. Sounds interesting. I've already enrolled for the program and I look forward.
Thank you.
Madhavan, please go ahead with your question.
This is regarding the post-MBL registration PhD program. What is the criteria for it?
Yeah, let me just say, I saw another query in the chat about that. So the PhD programs, we have 2 PhD programs. We have a regular PhD program and we have what is called an interdisciplinary PhD program. Admission to these programs requires you to have a master's degree. The MBL qualifies as a master's degree for the purposes of admission to the program, but the program admission is based on an entrance test and a Viva presentation. So it has a different channel of admission. There is no automatic transfer from the MBL to the PhD. So the PhD program will require you to do a test, appear for a Viva based on your proposal, and then get admitted. I hope that's clear.
Yeah, thank you. It's clear.
Yeah, thank you. So there's another question in the chat, which is about chartered accountants qualifications and the MBL qualification. So my understanding of the chartered accountants qualification is that while it is a core professional qualification in accountancy and audit services, it introduces all students to a wide array of laws and the breadth of laws that are available. So to that extent, a chartered accountant already, in some sense, has a basic introduction to legal materials. Having said that, a program like this will be different in that we will try and teach through a program like this how to be analytical about law? How do you work with legal materials and apply these to concrete cases? So it's very different. And this I'll say categorically because I've looked at the Chartered Accountant course in some detail and know many professionals in the field, is that the approach to dealing with legal materials is completely different in a program like the MBL, or for that matter, in any of the programs in the National Law School. So we are not treating, for example, we are not trying to assess whether you know or can memorize a wide array of statutory provision. That's not terribly important to us. What's very important to us is, can you read and apply these materials to concrete problems? So it's a different focus. I hope that clarifies the question.
Jaswinder, please go ahead. While Jaswinder is asking her question, sir, there is a question for you which says that do we have labor law concepts in the course?
So in the current structure of the course, labor law is not built in as a specific. There is a course on industrial relations law. Maybe to be fair to the person asking the question, maybe we should rename that course. It covers the broad area of labor law generally. So yes, there's a short answer to your question is yes, in the course titled Industrial Relations Law in Year 1. Saurabh asks a question about specimen question papers and so on. You will be very well prepared. We will share with you previous materials, previous question papers. Our objective in the program is to give every student a good opportunity to do well in these exams. Back to you, Apurva.
Yes, Jaswinder has been waiting.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
The program is excellent, and I have gone through the entire brochure, and my application is also filled. There are a couple of questions. In fact, most of them have been answered. One is there any age embargo? Number two, examination, I think you have answered. You have a center in Delhi or not? And the course fees which you have mentioned for year 1 and year 2, will it remain fixed, or maybe there is a chance of enhancement maybe next year? And looking into the COVID situation where the salaries have come down, there are job cuts and things like that, is there any discount being offered on the course fees per se? Because that is becoming very relevant in the current situation. And the last question is that there are two types of candidates who will be pursuing this course. One is for professional knowledge and one for academic interest. When I ask the age constraint, for us, the passing the examination may not be of that importance, as would be the course contents and understanding the concept which you are unable to do in the normal. So I wanted the clarification on these.
Can I answer, Apurva?
Please, sir.
So, Jaswinder, thank you so much for your questions, because you raised questions that I trust many others in the room would be interested in. So first things first, no age constraints. So at the current moment, we have no age constraints for our BA LLB program either. So you have the opportunity to apply at any age. Your second point was about why would you learn? It's not just about passing exams. And I can assure you that that is precisely what the pedagogical model and motivation behind these programs are. And you will see big changes this year in that direction. What we are interested in is communicating that excitement of learning and hopefully showing to all candidates what the applicable value of this kind of learning is. So you will be interested to hear that, and I hope interested to join the program for that reason. I think you had a third question. What did I miss, Apurva?
I think he had a question about potential fee enhancement.
Yeah, that's a very important question. So I think if you compare our courses, the MBL included, to most programs, let me just say for point of comparison offered by IIM Bangalore or any of the other IIMs, you will notice that the program is very modestly priced. So we are going through a process of very careful review of these programs, both content, pedagogy, model of delivery, as well as financial review. And here is what I'll say, because none of this is decided, so that I don't have an announcement to make, is that it's very likely that we will increase the fees in the programs in the years to come, as we revamp and remodel these programs. For the moment, though, the fee that is advertised this year is the fee that you will have to pay. And maybe Sushila can correct me if I'm wrong, that once you get admitted in a cohort, you pay the fee of your cohort.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I think there is a related question also. One is if one is pays for the both the years at one shot, is there some discount on that? Number two, in fact, I put a query over the mail on the recognition of this course by, I think, UGC.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I understand there is a court case going on where
Yes.
you have approached the honorable court to recognize this course because other courses have also been recognized. Now, where are we on that?
Yeah, so I can clarify both of these. We don't have a discount if you choose to pay fees this way or that. It's entirely up to you. And so the fees are, I think, already clear, and that clarifies the question. So the UGC question, I'll answer that as well. You would have noticed in one of my slides that this program was started in 94-95. In 94-95, when we started these programs, we were pioneers. The UGC had not even come to grips with the processes and methods of online education. Over the years, the UGC has stepped into this question, this area of regulation, and has made all kinds of guidelines, some of which are functional and workable, and others which are not functional and workable. Our program predates the UGC regulation, and so there are some issues of how we fit with the UGC regulation. The current status of that negotiation is that our program is declared to be valid, fully recognized by the UGC, but we continue to work with the UGC to try and sort out these lack of fit kind of issues and get this sorted out. So I hope that in the next year, we would be able to sort these issues out in a regulatory sense. In a legal sense, I can assure you, even as of today and for the foreseeable future, this program is recognized because the High Court has clearly directed the UGC to include the program in its list of approved programs.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. There are a couple of questions about how this program could be beneficial for HR professionals.
Yes. So I think one question was about industrial relations law, labor law generally. But my sense of the HR professional landscape now is that HR professionals play a wide, I mean, they're working with contracts all the time. Those contracts have heavy commercial, dimensions. But many HR professionals are also professionals who have crossed over from various fields. So my sense is for HR professionals who are looking to widen the arena of their expertise and widen the arena of their work, a program like this would suit you very well.
Thank you, sir. Balaji, could you ask your question now?
Yeah. So first, I already asked the question. Is it the first time the Vice Chancellor is leading the DDE? I mean, or is it a sort of a personal interest of the, Professor Sudhir, who has just assumed charge? I also understand you're an alumni of the institute. That's question number one. If I'm allowed to ask the second question, is it all right? So that you can answer the questions.
Please.
The second question is, I generally understand the percentage of people passing out of this program is very less. Somebody told me just about 2% or 3%. I don't know whether that number is accurate. The third question is, by not being in Bangalore, is somebody is at a disadvantage? The contact classes happens in Bangalore. So these are the three questions to you, Professor.
Yeah, okay. Let me answer, since it's a direct question to me. I'll jump in and try and be quick and brief. Why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I think that the work that we have done in DED is pioneering work. We started engaging in this field much before anyone even thought that these programs were viable or important. And so I think that over the years we have done this well, and I think we can do it way better. And that's my interest in these programs. I also think that the future of higher education will erase the difference between on-campus and off-campus programs in the years ahead. If the National Law School wants to be the future leader in legal education, I think that we must invest heavily in off-campus education. And these are my two reasons. I think this is the future, and we must be there at the forefront of it. Your second question was about whether whether it would matter that you were not in Bangalore. I can assure you that we are working to a model that even when we do classes in Bangalore, they will be streamed live. So I suspect that if you are not on campus, it's not going to, obviously there is a difference between an online class experience and the offline class experience, but we will try and bridge that gap to the greatest extent. Nikhil, you're seconding that question about pass percentages. So Balaji, your pass percentages were dismal. It's not so dismal, but it's not high. And I think what you're raising is a genuine and important concern. So let me say two things. While the National Law School has distinguished itself with highly selective programs, you understand that the MBL and our distance education programs generally are not selective programs. So we don't have an entrance test-based admission, right? So this is our effort to perform a public education function. So a large number of candidates may enroll, and we don't vet them to say, this is the course for you and so on. Having said that, we have to find a way where we very carefully calibrate the methods in the classroom, the materials available with the examination process. So I can assure you that I have a razor sharp focus on the question of graduation rates. I intend to increase it every step of the way. If it means that, in the future, that we need to have entrance exams for these programs, so be it. We may even go in that direction if it means that we maintain the academic integrity of our graduation rates. So Balaji, thanks for raising the question. It's a serious question, and it's something that we are very focused on.
Thank you, Professor.
I have a background in sales and marketing. So studying in India with Indian regulations, how this course could be beneficial, working in abroad.
Now, the validity of the degree across the world, it is a degree offered by a recognized university in India. To the extent that global reputation and global recognition goes, the National Law School has as much as any university teaching law in India does. I think most of you are aware that our reputation and the spread of our alumni across the world is considerable. But every country, jurisdiction might have its own rules about recognition of degrees. So I don't want to go into that. As a general matter, our degrees would be recognized. But you might want to check in your specific jurisdictions.
Hi, I just wanted to ask, I'm a practicing advocate. So how does it compare to, how does MBL compare to an LLM for me?
So as a practicing lawyer, I mean, you haven't said how many years of practice you have, but you already clearly both have got a law degree and you have practical experience applying the law to what you do. So an MBL degree would matter if you want to specialize, you want to focus on areas of business law, It would also help you if you want to enhance the level of your and the depth of your understanding of these fields in a practical sense. If you intend to stay in the world of practice, certainly in the world of transactional lawyering, non-court lawyering, the degree is both recognized and appreciated. But in the world of practice, litigating practice, I'm sure that if you bring a better quality of understanding and argument to litigation, it should add to your professional advancement. An LLM program, just to be clear, has to be a full-time program. The UGC has not permitted online LLM programs, though I was surprised to see an advertisement for one such program a few weeks ago. But if you have the time to take time off and do an LLM program as a full-time program, certainly that will give you an equally good, if not better, learning experience.
Thank you. My question is, shall we get access to the online library, especially for the books which would have been suggested by the faculties?
Yes. So let me say two things. The entire distance education student community does not have automatic access to the entire digital collections of the NLS library. So let me make that default position clear. However, in the learning platform, you will have integrated access to a certain stock of material that is relevant for the programs. And that will be over and above the printed materials and the standard stock of materials that we share. And we will try, as I said in response to questions earlier, that if we push digital learning as our key model, we will try to enhance access in the years ahead. So you can expect certainly much more access than any cohort has had before this.
We certainly need that. So please try that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ajanta. Thank you everybody for making the time to join us. My special thanks to Professor Krishnaswamy for being with us for this session. I know there are a lot of queries that are unanswered. Please be assured to follow up with each one of you so that you have the information that you need. There are several requests about extending the deadline for admissions this year. Please know that we are very carefully considering it, and if there is an announcement, you will be hearing from us shortly. Thank you everybody and have a great weekend.
Thank you all.
Thank you.